The Admiral points at the frightened foreign contractor and smiles as the hospital staff watches. Translate this, nurse. Mara Vale lowers her eyes, still wearing the plain gray scrubs she has worn for 4 years. I hired you to clean up misunderstandings, not display whatever little talent you think you have. Shay clears throat then. On a night when a storm traps 3 helicopters at Blackridge Naval Medical Center, an injured officer staggers through the emergency doors and whispers one word, Raven. Mara looks up. Her sleeve slips back. A black seal trident tattoo appears beneath the fluorescent lights. The Admiral freezes. If this story reaches someone who needs to hear it, give it a like. Subscribe to Silent Scrub Stories for more hidden hero stories. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from tonight. For 4 years, Mara had made herself invisible. She worked as a civilian language support nurse in the emergency department, translating for patients, helping families, and stepping aside whenever senior staff entered the room. She never discussed her past, never volunteered for ceremonies, never corrected anyone who called her the quiet translator. Admiral Victor Hale loved that about her. He called her Pocket Nurse, Pocket Nurse. He said one afternoon in front of 12 staff members, the briefing is for officers. You can stand outside and translate when somebody important needs you. A few people smiled. Mara simply nodded. Later Hale tossed a medical report onto the counter. Translate this Arabic section. Mara, read it once. You're certain? Hale asked. Yes. Then why didn't you catch the dosage discrepancy yesterday? The room went silent. Mara looked at him. Because it wasn't my assignment. The heel smiled coldly. There it is. Difficult again. An elderly patient named Mr. Benton, a retired mechanic recovering from surgery, watched from his bed. That evening he noticed Mara sitting with her back against the wall, eyes scanning every entrance. You always do that, he said. Do what? Sit where nobody can surprise you. Mara smiled faintly. Mr. Benton lowered his voice. One day, they're going to find out why. She said nothing. Outside, thunder rolled across the harbor. Then the emergency radio crackled. Severe storm warning. Incoming aircraft advised to divert. Nobody knew the storm was only the beginning. 20 minutes later, the first helicopter came in hard. Its landing lights cut through sheets of rain. The aircraft had suffered a mechanical failure during evacuation operations. 2 crew members were injured. One was unconscious. The other had massive blood loss and suspected chest trauma. The emergency bay erupted.
Move! Trauma 2!
Get the rapid infuser. Admiral Hale stepped forward, trying to take control. Everyone remained calm, follow hospital protocol. But his voice was too loud, too fast. A nurse shouted, We have another aircraft inbound. Then the doors burst open. A soaked man stumbled inside wearing a torn tactical uniform. Blood covered his shoulder. He looked around the room with terrified eyes. Where is Commander Vale? Hale frowned. Who? The man's knees buckled. Mara caught him before he hit the floor. Her hands pressed against his wound. Pressure dressing. A nurse stared. Mara's voice had changed. Flat. Controlled. Absolute. Now. The nurse moved. 2 large-bore IVs cross-match. Get a chest tray. Hale stepped toward her. Mara, I didn't authorize. Sir, she said without looking at him, if you want him alive, don't interrupt. The room stopped. Not because anyone intended to obey, because Mara's body had already remembered what her civilian life had forced it to forget. Her spine straightened. Her hands stopped shaking. Her eyes became still. Then the injured man looked at her face. His expression changed. Raven. Mara looked down. The sleeve of her scrub top had torn open. The tattoo was visible. A black trident beneath a small 8-pointed raven. Nurse Daniel Cho saw it first. His mouth fell open. He had seen that symbol on classified commendation photographs during his military training. Then the injured officer whispered, Raven 6. Daniel's eyes widened. She was never just the language nurse. Hale stared at Mara. No, he said. That isn't possible. Mara didn't answer. She was already working. Daniel airway. On it. Priya, monitor and pressure. Got it. Jensen, prepare blood. Yes, ma'am. Security, lock the east corridor. A guard hesitated. Mara looked at him. Now. He ran. The wounded officer suddenly grabbed Mara's wrist. It's the research wing. She leaned closer. What happened? They're moving patients. Mara's eyes hardened. What patients? Trial patients. The room went silent again. Blackridge Medical Center had been conducting a controversial trauma recovery program funded by a private defense contractor called North Star Meridian. Officially, it tested advanced treatments for combat injuries. But the officer carried evidence that patients had been kept in the program longer than medically necessary. Some had suffered complications. Some had never consented to additional procedures. And the emergency diversions had been manipulated. The storm was cover. Someone was destroying records. Hale turned pale. That accusation is absurd. Mara looked at him. You knew. I knew nothing. The injured officer coughed. Admiral, you signed the authorization. Hale froze. Mr. Benton, still in his hospital bed near the doorway, slowly raised his hand. Actually, he said, Sign 3. Everyone turned. The old mechanic smiled. I used to repair aircraft instruments. I recognize signatures. Mara looked at him. Mr. Benton nodded. That's why I told you they'd find out. The second crisis hit seconds later. A monitor screamed. The unconscious helicopter pilot went into ventricular fibrillation. Clear. Mara pushed the team aside. Charge. The defibrillator whined. Clear. The body jolted. Nothing again. Another shock. A pulse returned. Then security radioed from the east corridor. Unauthorized personnel inside the research wing. Mara looked at Hale. Your people. Hale said nothing. That silence answered the question. Mara turned to security. Shell the wing. Preserve every server. Nobody deletes anything. The hospital director finally stepped forward. We need to discuss liability. Mara looked at No. We need to discuss victims. By sunrise, federal inspectors were inside Blackridge. Hale tried one final defense. This was a chain of command issue. Protocol required. Colonel Adrian Cross placed a file on the table. Protocol. He opened it. Commander Mara Vale, former Special Operations Medical Officer. 8. Language certified. 2 combat deployments. 47 documented emergency interventions. Navy Commendation Medal. Distinguished Service Citation. Hale stared at the papers. Cross continued. She resigned after refusing to participate in an unauthorized human trial. The room became painfully quiet. Hale finally whispered, You knew all along. Mara looked at him. I knew what I was. That was all. Hale's authority collapsed under the weight of his own signature. Northstar Meridian lost its contract. The research program was suspended. An independent patient consent review board was established, and Blackridge created the Vale Protocol, requiring every emergency research patient to have an independent advocate and every treatment authorization to be digitally audited. Weeks later, Mara returned to the emergency department. Nothing looked dramatically different. The same fluorescent lights, the same carts, the same noisy monitors, but she no longer wore her sleeves down. Mr. Benton caught her in the hallway. Told you they'd find out. Mara smiled. Yes, you did. Daniel approached, embarrassed. I should have stood up for you sooner. Mara handed him a chart. Then start now. Room 6 needs you. He nodded. The injured officer, Commander Elias Ward, visited her privately before returning to duty. You saved my life twice, he said. Mara shook her head. You survived twice. He smiled. Outside, thunder rolled over the harbor again. Mara stood beside the emergency doors, watching rain slide down the glass. 4 years earlier, she had been the woman nobody noticed. The woman with sleeves pulled low. The woman who sat with her back against the wall. Now the tattoo remained visible beneath the hospital lights. The same quiet woman. The same steady eyes. But no one called her pocket nurse anymore. Because quiet was never the same thing as weak. And sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the one who has already survived everything they're afraid of. If this story hits you, give it a like and subscribe to Silent Scrub's stories for more hidden heroes who refuse to stay invisible. And comment the exact moment this story hit you hardest. We read every single one down.